some ways. He writes songs, he adores media attention. Unlike Clive, he's had to fight his way back after a fall from grace. Now, fit and clear-eyed, he's back at work with a new outlook on life, a new band called Jesus Loves You, and a new single called Bow Down Mister. A warm welcome to Boy George. You shortened your name, haven't you?
Well, not really. I mean, it was written and people sort of seem to be keep asking me whether I've changed it to George. I mean, I just call myself George now, really. But people still call me Boy George or Boy in America.
Is that all right with you?
I don't really mind what people call me as long as they're nice.
But you have another job.
Yeah, well, actually, I lost it today. I found out this morning we've been axed, so I haven't got another job. But I've been doing TV presenting for BSB for a pop station called the Power Station. But we're being axed in April, so it's all over.
Just you?
No, the whole thing, not just me, no.
Oh. I mean, you had such big names on it. You had David Hamilton and Tony Blackburn. And...
Yeah, they were brilliant, actually. They were really nice. I mean, I think... I enjoyed interviewing people because it's sort of... Well, I like talking, and it's easy to do. Talking's easy to do, you know. I mean, you do sort of get nervous. I mean, some people, when they come on, you know, they make you a bit nervous. Mary Whitehouse, I had her on, but she left. She came like 2 hours in the car, and then she had a bit of a bad back, and she couldn't sit in the chair, so she kind of went home. And I had Spike Milligan on, and he was a nightmare.
Was he having one of his bad evenings?
Well, apparently he was nice to me, but it was difficult. I mean, apparently he can be quite difficult, but... He was kind of like interesting, to say the least. Mm.
But now, of course, you're a big, Mr. Big, in fact, in the record trade. Got your own label.
Yeah, I've got a label that I run through Virgin Records. It's a kind of like small dance label. It's not a big label.
What do you call yourself?
We're called More Protein.
Well,
basically, I mean, we've had a lot of successful dance records in the last year and a half. We've had a few quite successful dance records, but nothing chart-wise yet. Oh, sorry, one. The first one, Everything Starts With an E, with MC Kinky, who's playing congas tonight with us on the show.
Great. Your new single has a distinct Hare Krishna influence. How did you get involved in that?
Well, about 8 years ago, I met I was living in New York with Marilyn. Marilyn was staying in my apartment, free. And this devotee came with some food, you know, because he came to kind of preach to me and tell me about... to try and turn me into a vegetarian, you know. I think what happened was that I'd said some things about Krishna in an interview. I said,
nice things?
Yeah, nice things, yeah. And I quite liked the sort of energy around them, you know. I found them to be very peaceful people. I'd been to... When I was squatting, I'd been to the temple in Soho to have free food. And I'd also bought an album off one of the people in Oxford Street, and I used to play it in a club that I DJ'd in. So anyway, this devotee came with food for us, and he offered Marilyn some prasadam, which is the food they give to Krishna, and Marilyn said he wanted to go and have some soft-shelled crab. And there was a bit of an argument about you know, Marilyn coming back as a crab in his next life, and which he replied to, I'd rather come back as a crab than a piece of lettuce. And just this kind of argument between this devotee really sealed my friendship with him, and he's been a friend of mine for about 8 years. So really, the reason I got sort of interested in it was through friendship, as I think is true of all human beings. You know, you're influenced by the people that you like, and that's what happened, you know. And I became a vegetarian 4 years ago. I don't eat any eggs, fish, or meat.
Feel all right?
Yeah, I'm really happy about that as well. I mean, it's very difficult ground because you feel like when you're on TV, you don't want to preach to other people, you know. I mean, I think most people in their hearts know that it's wrong to eat animals, and that's all I need to say about it.
All right. The record...
Someone pulling a face over there. You know it's wrong. They're lovely little things.
The record also has a hippie, happy feeling, rather like sort of Hare Krishna in an anorak. It's jolly, isn't it?
Well, I'm a bit of a hippie, I suppose, yeah. With short hair, with a bald hippie like you. Yeah.
Are you going to be chanting up and down Oxford Street?
No, I do chant. I started chanting about 4 years ago. I started chanting with Jonathan Ross's mother-in-law, actually. Introduced me to
that sounded like the title of a book, doesn't it?
Hi, Mandy. So, yeah, I think... Well, it's very sort of meditational. It's very therapeutic, actually.
You're absolutely struck on the wisdom of the East. You're certain about this.
I think artistic people are kind of attracted to that kind of... the colour and the excitement of it all, yeah. I mean, when I went to India, it kind of really affected me. I thought it was... I mean, it's a very kind of scary place in a lot of ways. It's very cruel. there's a lot of poverty. You know, you see children, like newborn babies, like sleeping on maggot-ridden mattresses in the street, and it's just really a real culture shock.
Clive, have you been drawn to the ascetic?
Well, the reason I raised the question myself is that I always thought the sound of the sitar was what really screwed the 60s. I liked the music up until I started hearing that twanging and jangling.
It's okay
and then everything went
well.
spongy after that. Things went a bit spongy. I like the wisdom of the East belongs in the East. The trouble is, by the time it lands at Heathrow, it's got its hand out. And see, the Maharishi was an operator. In fact, the Beatles went to India on the ashram and everything. I think Ringo was the first to spot it. There was a rip-off was taking place. Ringo has shaved his beard off lately, but even when he had the beard on, you know, you could read his face very easily. He slowly got brassed off with what was a great deal of profound boredom was happening out there in India. And I think he may be the one that triggered the voyage home. But I think after that they never really went for the wisdom of the East that much again.
But you've gone for it.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it, and I don't think it's well, I mean, I don't really, that's a cynical view.
Well, sceptical view, shall we say.
Who would trust Ringo anyway?
Well, he does, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Sorry, no, I actually really like him. He's a really nice person. I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, you know.
Because musically, you're more of a country man, aren't you?
Oh, I always, you could keep Hare Krishna. It was, Hare Krishna, no, Krishna was his name. Hare Krishna means praise Krishna.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was, I apologise for that. No, I always thought Johnny Cash was the greater philosopher. Although I have to admit that, that Johnny Cash was leading a much more tortured life than the average Hare Krishna. What I like about the Hare Krishna people is probably what George likes, is that they really are happy, and you can't argue with happiness.
No, that's
If someone tells you that he's happy and he's at peace, then he either is or he's lying, but you can't argue with it. You can't say,
that's
no,
what
you're
we all
not.
want, you know.
Yeah, a bit of serenity does you the power of good. Now, you're into alternative therapies as well, aren't you? Crystals and what's...
Well, I'm into anything that kind of makes me feel calm and uncynical, you know.
But you've let it needle you, so you're not quite into it deeply enough,
Well, no, I mean, I think he's taken a very cynical view of it. I am into it. I think that it's hard to convince... It's hard to convince someone else unless they want to be convinced. That's what
What is colour therapy?
Colour therapy is when you kind of like imagine colours. You know, certain colours are very soothing, you know, I mean, and that's what it's all about. I go to see this woman called Lily Cornfield, who's 84, who's an amazing old lady. There was actually a documentary on her on TV. Some of you may have seen it, I'm not sure. But she spends a lot of her time working with disabled people. Not that I'm one, but we're all disabled in some ways. And I go to see her not for any particular reason, just because she's a wonderful person and makes me feel really calm. And that's really what I do. I spend a lot of my time trying to make myself calm.
Clive, do you go anywhere without your crystals?
Well, yeah, I go everywhere without my crystals. I'm a rational, reasoning Western carnivore, and look where it's got me. I'm bald, fat, and miserable. So I don't deny that George might have something. In fact, I don't deny the wisdom of the East has got something, especially when it's Eastern. But you can't, I mean, millions and millions and millions of sincere Indians and Pakistanis believe in all this stuff. The trouble is, most of it comes to us filtered through California, which is a different place. And that's where the operators are really operating, in California. That's where most of the crystals are getting made and so on. That's my own crystals. They dropped off years ago. There's no real chance of having them replaced, I'm told. And I just find it hard to believe that the powers, the mystic forces that move the universe are specifically interested in my happiness. I just have a philosophical problem with that kind of profundity.
I think there obviously are some charlatans, you know, and there are people that do it for money, but there are also a lot of people that do it for a good reason, you know.
What, George, to loosen us up, do you have little tricks, things you can do? What can we do to make us relaxed people?
Well, I don't know really. I think it's a personal thing, you know. You have
Too
to
late
kind
for
of
us, you're saying, isn't
No,
it?
I don't think it's too late for you, but massages are good. I mean, Bob Hope has one every day, apparently.
Who does?
Bob Hope
Has what?
has a massage every day.
And he's 80 what? Yes.
He's very, very rich, right?
And he smiles quite a lot, so that's lovely.
He owns large parts of the San Fernando Valley.
We're going to hear the song, aren't we, a bit later on?
Yes, later.
Look forward to that. But we'll pause here for some light refreshment, and then we'll meet Sharon Gless.
We'd have to vacate the premises.
That's realistic, yeah.
That's realistic.
Yes.
Right?
George, have you seen the new series?
I haven't actually.
Well, it's only just
But you were
started.
good in the old one.
George.
He loved the old one.
She has a great laugh.
Yes, he does, you're
A very
right.
distinctive laugh. It's really nice.
The old show, it was, and this one too, to a degree.
I am. It's not
There you
such a
are.
problem. It's not such a problem. I don't even miss it.
George, after Culture Club, you too had troubles, didn't you?
Yeah.
How'd you get over that? Yours wasn't the booze, it was other things.
Same thing, really. You know, you just kind of like, people tell you, and you just kind of like, it takes time, you know, and you just realise eventually, you know, that it's... I mean, it's true, I didn't really do anything creative while I was taking drugs. And that's when you start to notice, really, that you're staying in a lot and hiding from the world and just becoming, you know, the sort of drug thing becomes your life, your existence.
Was it the media spotlight that did this to you, or was it just you were in that kind of game?
I think that, you know, it was an experience that... I think most things that happen to you in your life, you kind of choose them in a way, you know. I mean, I think that it would have happened to me one way or another. I've always had addictions in my life, whether it's been in relationships. Culture Club was a bit of an addiction for me, you know. I sort of immersed myself in that 24 hours a day, and nothing else mattered. And it may have been something to do with that, but I think it's just to do with the person that I am. You know, I'm an excessive person, and that's why it happened, really, I think, more than anything. You know, and it's kind of like, in a way, I mean, it sounds a bit kind of... I mean, I'm glad that it happened to me, because it's made me a better person in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, I think unless you've been hit by a few trucks in your life, you've got nothing to judge your life by. And that's what I think happened to me, you know.
It was strange when people would come over to the house, and please, I love to watch people drink. I love it. Please, have a drink.
And Boy George. And Clive James. And thanks for your company. See you next week. Good night, and over to you, George.
From Bombay to Bangalore, all the Hindus know the score. If you wanna live some more, Hare, Hare, Hare. If you do not take the vow, you can eat the sacred cow. You'll get karma anyhow. Hare, Hare, Hare. Bow down, mister. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. Do the right thing with your hands. Lay down on the pleasing sands. Whatever else your faith demands. Hare, Hare, Hare. From Bombay to Rajasthan, Tagore, Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare, Hare, Hare. Bow down, mister. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. Bow down, mister. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. In the desert, Kashmir, they put kankan in their hair. At the Westerners, they stare. So faint a tilak on your brow, open like a lotus flower. It's time to check your karma now. Hare, Hare, Hare. Bow down, mister. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. Bow down, mister. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. Bow down, mister. We say Radhe Shyam. Bow down, mister. You don't clap if you want. Thank you.